Guys, I love making content about things I hate, and I think everybody does. That's why there's so much of it on YouTube. Like, you're going to leave the 1-star review on Yelp because the waitress forgot your side of Chipotle mayonnaise. But if things go beyond your wildest expectations and you had a great time, you're going to shrug your shoulders, be completely unmoved, and say, well, it should have been like that. We really take excellence for granted. So it really tickles me today to bring something to you that I think is excellent in a way that nothing on TV is excellent. The way it covers themes, the way it makes you kind of reflect on your own life. I mean, you can actually use this to add something to your personal experience on this planet, like good art should. So I'm going to cover The Bear, Feast of the Seven Fishes, one of 2 episodes that I think 2 are the best episodes ever to be on TV. The other one being the follow-up episode, Forks, which follows Richie and is very optimistic and hopeful. Whereas Feast of the Seven Fishes is very dysfunctional and chaotic. It's like a yin and yang that go together so beautifully well. So today we're covering Carmine's dysfunctional ass family, and we're going to talk about how that relates to the themes of The Bear. Now, if you're watching this, you already think The Bear is the best thing on TV and you just want more of it. Or you're on the other side of the fence and you're like, it's a bunch of Chicagoans yelling at each other in a kitchen. What's the big deal? Explain it to me. Well, chef, pull up a chair because I'm going to explain it to you. The 2-cent synopsis of The Bear for people that forgot or haven't seen it. You have Carmine, world-renowned chef, worked at one of the best restaurants in the world, and he has to come back to Chicago to take over the small restaurant his brother left him when he committed suicide. Now, unfortunately, Carmine doesn't get the respect he deserves as this like highly esteemed chef because he comes from a small neighborhood, a dysfunctional family, everybody's breaking each other's balls, and he has a lot of inadequacy. So as you see him take on the big task of trying to turn his brother's restaurant into a well-oiled machine that becomes just bigger and brighter, he's having to also address his own mourning of his brother, his own trauma that connects back to his upbringing, get his emotional health in order, and then try to use that to try to produce something bigger. So the whole show is really just relating the chaotic, high-stress restaurant to a big family, to all of the trauma and miscommunication that goes on, and it does it beautifully well. Now, I've worked in restaurants for years. I worked at big corporate restaurants like Yard House and Macaroni Grill. I worked at diners where you take like 30 tables at a time like IHOP. Anybody who has worked in the industry as a server, bartender, or in the kitchen knows that it just gets bananas. I hate to use the term PTSD to describe what goes on in restaurants in the first world, but anybody who's worked in these spaces knows that when things get stressful, it burns itself into your brain. You have dreams about it. It's been 15 years since I've been in a restaurant and I still get service dreams. It's really bizarre. So when that ticket printer is going off and everybody realizes that they're not caught up, it's been printing the whole time and they just haven't been paying attention, that shit took my blood pressure up like 45 points. I'm not even kidding. I had trouble sleeping that night. So the tension is visceral and does a great job of relating the sense of urgency with the need to actually kind of calm down and get your shit together if you want to be effective. So the Feast of the Seven Fishes is just that on steroids. It's the first episode that deals with Carmine's family specifically. It takes place out of the restaurant, but all the same dynamics are present. You have his mom, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, in one of the best roles that she has ever done in her entire life. And she is all of it. She is loving, but she's also overbearing. And she also does the guilt trips. We're just dripping with codependency here. She's biting off more than she can chew by trying to do these 7 dishes. She's losing track of everything. She's yelling at people. She's breaking balls. She's smoking. She's drinking. The timer keeps going off. Every time a timer goes off, reminds her of something she forgot about. Like she's perpetually one step behind. And it's just pure neuroticism turned up to 11. And then you have everybody else with their own side plots as they yell over each other. It's very organic, but also very scripted. It was really well done because everything that somebody says has something to do with their particular plot, but it's noise. It's chaos. They're yelling over each other. People are telling jokes, but they're also making digs and they're also, dealing with their own stuff. It's insanity. And you get to see that, being raised in this environment, you can see why Carmine likes revisiting that trauma like people are wont to do. How he feels comfortable in this high stress environment where, if you remember from one of the first episodes, Joel McHale is his boss whispering in his ear,
"You're terrible at this. You're no good at it. You are bullshit. You are talentless."
That inadequacy cuts to the heart of what Carmine is dealing with. He doesn't feel like he's good enough. He A, feels comfortable in this environment because it's familiar to him, it's nostalgic. But B, because he also feels like that's what he deserves. Like so many people who have grown up in abusive households or dysfunctional households start to feel. It's why people find themselves in abusive relationships if their parents were themselves abusive. One of the most true things you'll find in addiction therapy or in general counseling is the fact that people that have suffered trauma tend to repeat those patterns and they tend to seek it out. People who are in chaotic highs and lows with their relationships. You know, the couples who break up and make up every 3 days. They love that. That's what they're looking for because they are timed to the highs and lows. Their brain gets a high. It anticipates the fight that's coming. It anticipates the makeup sex. So people that are unhealthy, to get healthy, they have to go for boring. They have to get rid of the chaos. They have to find stability. And it's a really bizarre dynamic, but it is extremely universal. So we get insight from Feast of the Seven Fishes into Carmine's history, his habits, where he gets his outlook on life, how he sees himself, and why he likes these crazy ass high stakes, and why he punishes himself with the emotional torture that is working in these kitchens. Now, the theme of inadequacy follows through as you see his stepfather telling his brother the same thing. You're nothing.
You are nothing. You're nothing.
That absolutely relates to that first scene where Carmine was being berated by his boss. That is the theme. These people carry the weight of feeling like they're not good enough and they don't deserve something better. So we get why Carmine's willing to suffer. He wants to build something. Now that is the first goal that he has. He wants to build something, but he also wants to suffer anyways. Now, good stories have two goals. The way the hero's journey works is you have a character, they want something, they go out in the world to get it, and their adventures, the antics that ensue, has them come back. Maybe they get what they want, maybe they get something else, maybe there's a lesson they learned, but the change is what defines a story. Every good story is about somebody getting something that they want and usually finding out they actually needed something else all along. The first goal for Carmine is getting this badass restaurant built on the back of his brother's restaurant. It's going to fix his inadequacy. Maybe he'll be enough. It's going to pay homage to his brother. It's who he is, what he's supposed to do. It's the one thing he's good at. But also engaging in this chaos, he feels like it's what he deserves. Now, the chaos he learned, yeah, he's a hustler, man. He likes high pressure stuff. He's fit for this environment. It's why he's so good. He likes big risks. He likes the stakes. But unfortunately, he's never going to get what he wants because if he leans into that same dysfunction, if he uses the same brand of chaos, he's giving into anger, the self-destructive tendencies. It's the cycle of dysfunction that continues. And it's why shit keeps burning down in the restaurant because people are talking past each other instead of actually communicating. Now, this is one of the biggest takeaways here, guys. The communication that they learn in the show. I mean, I got called out by my wife because in one of the scenes, like I got teary-eyed. She stopped the show. She's like, "Are you crying?" And I'm like, "No, I just have something in both my eyes." The realization that these guys figured out how to communicate, how to get past the bullshit. That scene where they start rubbing their chest when things get heated as that little trigger that says, "Hey, things are getting too high. We got to bring it down now." That scene showed an amount of growth that writers almost never let their characters see. In fact, I think most writers, most people don't even know what that growth is. To be able to bypass all the dysfunction that is burned into your brain from a family of people who are mentally ill, addicts, dysfunctional, high stress, highly neurotic, to be able to get past that in like your 30s and figure out how to step out of yourself when the anger starts swelling up, when you start repeating those same automatic patterns, that was insane. And it just made me emotional. It made me tear up. The point of this show is that Carmine has this other goal. It's not just building up the restaurant. His other goal is replacing the chaos with something productive. He's only going to get the restaurant if he figures his shit out, if he figures out acceptance, that he deserves to have good things, that he deserves to have this work out. He deserves his girlfriend. He is good enough. He's not inadequate. And he has to find stability. He has to trade in the chaos of his dysfunctional upbringing and all the shit that comes with it in order to demonstrate that he can be a stable person capable of building something sustainable. The chaos isn't sustainable at all. Part of that is the communication. And the thing about the communication, guys, everybody thinks they communicate to be understood. Almost nobody communicates to be understood. We open our mouths and sound comes out, or it doesn't. If we're giving people the cold shoulder, that is a byproduct of the habits that we learned as a kid into our adolescence. And it all comes from our role models, our parents, our family, our siblings, who formed us early in life. When we communicate, it is us expressing what we're comfortable with. Either we are or aren't comfortable engaging with conflict. Either we are or aren't comfortable asserting ourselves. Either we are or aren't comfortable calling out people's bullshit in a real way where we hear them to the same degree we expect them to hear us. The thing is, guys, people don't want to communicate, just like they don't want to give up their addictive habit, just like they don't want to give up their anger. Anger is an addictive substance, just like gambling, sex, booze, and heroin. And the thing is, guys, when you communicate well, it removes your right to be angry. Watching that scene where they rub their chest with their fists to step outside of themselves. Tony Robbins called this state. And you can laugh at Tony Robbins. I don't care. It's one of the truest, most helpful things I stumbled across. When you're going to perform something really big, your brain gets into this pattern, this orientation it's used to being in, and you want to learn how to get in that state automatically. And people have rituals to help them focus the right way. Similarly, when we're giving into the worst parts of ourselves, when anger's taking over, when we're being compulsive, petty, when we're at the lowest parts of ourselves, that is a pattern that's built in, and it's a state we have to snap out of. You do that by interrupting patterns. And it literally can be as easy as snapping your fingers, making a weird noise, shaking your head, jumping up and down, go like smack yourself in the forehead and be like, this shit's got to stop. Getting out of state is very easy. We just don't know A, to do it, or B, how to do it. It just wakes up a part of your brain that's like, hey, we need some checks and balances. Things are spiraling out of control. So learning how to step out of the dysfunction as it's brewing up, not an easy thing to do. That character growth, again, highly emotional stuff, and cuts to the theme of what the important goal is in The Bear, and that is Carmine realizing that he needs acceptance and needs to buck the chaos. And the most important thing is that this new family he has does it right this time around, that they work well with each other. Now, going to the Feast of the Seven Fishes with his mom going crazy, and it culminates with her having a meltdown in front of everybody. Again, amazing performance by Jamie Lee Curtis. She gets into the car, drives it into the living room, and it's hilarious. It's a dark comedy, but it also shows you that this goes so much deeper than you thought. I mean, even when you knew his brother committed suicide, you realize that this goes deeper than you thought. This is burned into his DNA, and things have been a little too rosy. It's probably this upswing that we're seeing probably not going to last the way we thought. Now, when we look at the big family that exists in this entire setting with all the chaos that goes on, you see two sides. You see what's alluring about it, the support and the love and the passion, the obligation they have to each other. They help each other out. There's humor. They just support each other. It's something they can fall back on. But at the same time, you get all of the dysfunction. Like they say, you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. Well, if you have a big family, you're the average of that family. And where it's a free-for-all, everybody is fighting each other to find leverage so they can stand out and get their needs met, because not everybody's getting their needs met. Squeaky wheel gets the grease, as they say. Well, some people have the ability to yell louder. Some people have the ability to tell jokes and be charismatic. Some people have the ability to leverage guilt, to be withholding, to be passive aggressive, or just outright aggressive. And you develop this deeply rooted toxic culture that people spend millions of dollars to go to therapy for over a lifetime and never get through their shit and never are better for it. Now, one of the funny things I'll point out is that inadequacy was a theme. Notice that you have the supposedly gay cousin who is in this shit show, and he's the most secure person there. He has no inadequacy. He's like, I don't care that you all think I'm gay. He's like, whatever, I love you all anyways. It is everybody else who's trying to get what they need. Now, the thing is, when you're trying to get what you need, that leads to codependency, because you'll take it any which way you can get it. Everybody has their needs. And between any two people, sometimes there's reciprocal needs that fit together like a puzzle piece that are just dysfunctional as shit. So usually you think of like an addiction cycle. You think of like a son on heroin and the overbearing mom who will do anything for him, even if it means him staying in his addiction. It's, hey, if you accept my toxic ass behavior, my bullshit that I throw on everybody else, and they usually make me see consequences for, if you accept that, I'll make you feel needed. And if you're somebody who wants to feel needed, hey, say no more, I'm all in. So the mental health dynamic, the addiction dynamic, the dysfunction dynamic is rooted in codependency. And that's what you see in The Bear. You see Carmine wanting validation from his brother, from his mom, and they don't give it to him. They're withholding because that's how they get what they want. So he's got to stay close. He's got to give up the thing he wants to be close to his family. That codependency, that give me my toxic want and I'll give you yours, is one of the things that keeps dysfunctional families going forever, like a perpetual motion machine of dog shit. And it's unfortunate that most people aren't even aware they're in those cycles, let alone how to crawl out of it. if any of you ever have the chance to ever engage with some type of like addiction, rehab counseling, there's so much stuff in there that is relevant to average dysfunctional relationships. And I would argue most people are in some type of dysfunctional relationship, either in their love life or with their family. And learning communication, getting over that hump, one of the biggest things you can do. And that's why watching this episode brought a tear to my eye, especially when you see it transition into the upswing, the hopeful montage of Richie's redemption arc, where he learns to move past the bullshit. In Forks, Richie discovers how to care about something. He can't use his lack of giving a fuck as a defense mechanism anymore. Either he wants to do something or he doesn't. And now it's time to stop being the guy that talks shit, actually put it out on the line. And he has one of the most beautiful episodes ever. And it shows somebody crawling out of this dysfunctional cycle. It shows in real time how this happens as he has those epiphanies. And all the while you get this dynamic of people, A, figuring out what the fuck it is they're supposed to care about, and B, figuring out how to do it. And in so many of these episodes, it's communication. It's learning how to talk. And then you get to the end of this series and you see where Carmine's stuck in the box and Richie's yelling at him. And the camera angle shows that divide, the wall, as they're going back to yelling over each other. Communication's broken down. So this is one of the most powerful things I've seen. I related to it a ton, and I could probably make another hour-long video breaking this stuff apart and relating it to just about anything you might see in family therapy or couples counseling. But hopefully you guys got something out of this. Hopefully you share my view that this added so much weight and depth to the characters. Again, Jamie Lee Curtis putting on one of the biggest performances I've ever seen, just playing the tortured, mentally ill, dysfunctional mom with all of her love and passion and affection paired with all of the depression and the angst and the neuroticism. It was absolutely beautiful. And we know Carmine so much better because of that portrayal. Of course, we also have the now immortal scene of John Barenthal threatening his father-in-law, telling Bob Odenkirk to throw the fork, and he throws the fork. That was just a beautiful scene. Again, as Bob Odenkirk is telling John Barenthal, you're nothing. And that inadequacy inevitably took that character's life. And those are the real stakes here. Those are the real stakes. So it's not just as much as your profession, your frivolous relationship with coworkers or friends or people that you engage with casually. There are real stakes with how you handle your personal relationships and how you let your interaction with other people in turn form your idea of who you are. And we're all hoping, right? At this point, we look at these characters with their struggle and we're hoping that they come out on the other side. So that is my take on Feast of the Seven Fishes. I will also do one for Forks because Forks, it's like whiplash. It's something that has nothing to do with lifting, but I can watch it and then go work out because the messaging, the hopeful motivation, the demonstration of skill and competence, absolutely beautiful. So let me know what you guys think. Go ahead and leave it in the comments. Thanks so much, guys. Until next time, this is Bromley. I'll see you.